Hey, welcome to the Sylvia Show. And we are live and in color at the Bread Box Art Studio in Williamson, New York. And I'm here with Dawn Butler, and she is our woman that we're celebrating today for Women History Month. And she's going to be sharing her story on how she got here. And Dawn and I met 2 years ago.
Yes.
And I've watched her go through this journey and where she is today. Camera fell. Thank you. Dawn's what is she, your sister?
She's going to be my manager of the art studio. Her name is Kate Chamberlain.
Kate.
And she's been volunteering until we get going, and I'm hoping in the future I can have her on a payroll.
All right.
So my friends, they've been coming in and volunteering to help to get everything.
What a blessing.
Amazing.
What a blessing. So, okay, do over here. I know I can't, it's live and things happen on live. But we have Dawn Butler here today, and she is the owner of the Bread Box Art Studio. And again, I met her a couple years ago. And the way that I met Dawn is that she was actually looking at a space next to our office, Ryan Dock Realty, where our heart is in your home, up in Ontario at the Plaza. And so she wanted to try to renovate that space for the Bread Box Art Studio.
Yes.
The Bread Box Art Studio.
Correct.
I can say that, and it's getting in my memory bank. And so she looked into that, and she was seriously looking at doing her art studio there. And it just turned out to be too much. It just wasn't going to be a fit and work for you. And so I've watched her journey, and that's why she's here to tell her story today, because today we're actually in a permanent place.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a 5-year lease, and what we are going for after this point is to buy our own property and have a building built after this, because we are going to keep expanding.
Yes, and she has expanded. She just moved from
1,000 square foot. Now this is a 6,000 square foot space.
Yes. And so we're live here in her art studio. We won't be able to go around with the camera and show you anything, but they are having a grand opening. And that grand opening is going to be happening March the 23rd from 10 to 4 p.m. And she even shared with me that Pam Hellman,
yes,
our state senator, will be here. And so shout out to Pam Hellman, who will be here to help Dawn and her family have their grand opening. And so they're still in the process right now of getting it ready. Do you have all your stuff in here?
We do. Right now, we're just doing the fine tuning and putting things where their locations are going to be. We still have to have some drywall put up in the back. What we have here, basically, we have 10,000 ceramic molds. We have a large functioning ceramic studio in the basement. We have kilns. We also have 4 pottery wheels. So we're going to be having pottery, and we have an instructor that we're on live, and I'm going to sit here and fumble on my words. Sorry, folks.
Okay.
She was trained at Alfred University.
Wow.
So we have Craig, who is a ceramic specialist. Okay. He's going to be working with ceramics. He's been doing ceramics since 1978.
Wow.
And then Kate, once we can actually hire her, she also is an art teacher.
Wow.
That's in her repertoire of things that she has.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of friends sharing.
You do. You have, and you know what I've seen with Dawn over these 2 years I've known her is that the community absolutely loves Dawn, and they support her. I love how I watch the community support you no matter where you are. Whether you were, so where were you before you were in the building on Ridge Road in Ontario?
So before the small location there was a smaller location prior to that. I had tried to have a ceramic studio out of our garage at home, and I outgrew that. And then I ended up, we had another property that I tried working out of. We have a large family, and we have a mobile home. So when the kids would come home with grandkids, we're like, okay, mobile home.
Yes.
And so I tried having the studio over there, and it didn't work out. It was too small. So then I ended up looking at the location next to Sylvia's, and then that had fallen through. It was not meant to be. And then I was almost 2 years at 1983 Ridge Road in Ontario, which
Oh,
used to be the
wow.
general store.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I've watched Dawn with this journey, her journey of getting to where she is. And I can remember the last time I saw you, I was at a church fellowship
Mhm.
and next to where you were. And I will pray for anybody anywhere. And so you were sharing with me how, because it was small.
Yes.
And I said, hey, let's pray right here on the sidewalk.
And we did.
And we did. And now look at where
We
she
are
is.
here.
Oh
So,
my gosh. And I just love it. I just love to watch what happened after that, because I gotta believe prayer did something.
it did. And
Some
God,
of
God
that.
keeps putting angels in my path. All along, I have held fast and true to, we wanted to be all inclusive. We wanted to be able to work with folks that are in wheelchairs
Mhm.
and special needs and veterans and people who need that little extra care with the location they're in.
Mhm.
I'm a nurse, and with my patient that I had for 6 years, he's a large reason of why I wanted to have an all-inclusive art studio.
Mhm.
There was only one area that we could take him in Rochester. And unfortunately, when you have individuals in wheelchairs, if you're taking them someplace and there's not a restroom that you can freshen them up in,
Mhm.
we would have to drive the almost hour to get back here to Williamson to take care of him.
Wow.
And then by then, the day was done.
Wow.
So I wanted to have an art studio that is handicap accessible, to which we are now. And we needed to have a handicap accessible bathroom. We had different contractors come in and give quotes, and we were not able to even come to a fraction of coming up with the funds that we needed for that. I did disclose this to my friends and the public that are on my Facebook. Our community came together.
Yeah.
The community donated supplies. The community, there was a GoFundMe that was started for me, and that
Wow.
ended up covering the rest of the supplies that we needed. But it's like between the supplies that were donated in by families and by the labor. And there was even a contractor that came from Churchville
Oh,
to
wow.
frame up.
Girl, you are so,
we
you
had
have so
folks
much
from
favor.
all over.
You are so blessed. You have what you say, angels.
Yeah.
So Dawn, you're Dawn, right? And you're the way God made you. She says she talks too much. I say, girl, you have the gift of gab. But you are also a wife.
Mhm.
You're a mom,
Mhm.
grandma.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
And
an
so,
artist.
and what? And a nurse.
A
And
nurse and an artist.
and an artist. And so she's able to this is what Women's History Month is all about. Celebrating those women. I'm not saying for women who don't do what Dawn does or what I do that you shouldn't be celebrated. However, that's why we're doing this month, to celebrate these women that are out there making history or her story. And so I look at Dawn and I just watch her, and she just has a heart to not only do what she does here, but to give back to the community. Because at one point, when you were at the smaller place previously, you were doing a luncheon
with the veterans
yes,
and the first responders.
and the first responders,
through
and
the
that was on a
Massa-
monthly basis.
That was on a monthly basis. The very first Wednesday of every month, we were doing a luncheon at the Masonic Lodge. And I started that because my family, we had to move my mother and my stepfather down from Messina. And my stepfather, he was a veteran, still is a veteran. And we moved them down, and he knew no one. And that's why I started the luncheons. But in amongst all of that, my biological father also was a veteran, and he also had dementia. Both of my fathers were Agent Orange exposed.
Oh, wow.
And I was juggling with two dads with dementia. So that being said, for a little bit, because my biological father, he passed in April, but I had to close my studio down, and there was an angel in the community that paid my rent for 5 months.
Wow.
Because she wanted to see me continue working with what I was doing, with what my intentions were.
Wow.
Because I was just you end up with family business on your lap, and you have to take care of family first. And I just hung my head. And at that point I was like, I'm done. It's like God doesn't want me to go through and have an art studio, and I was ready to hang everything
Right.
up and sell everything off and be done.
Right.
And if it was not for this woman in the community that
Paid the rent.
she paid my rent.
Oh my gosh.
And if it
For
wasn't
the
for her,
studio itself.
for my studio,
Wow. Let's
she did
make that
not-
clear, because
yes,
people might think she paid your house rent or whatever.
no,
But
she paid my studio rent for 5 months.
wow.
And I did not ask them to, and I kept telling her, I said, I can't pay you back, because I knew that I
Right.
had to stop working as a nurse because I was doing full 24/7 care with my dad.
Wow. I remember that.
So
Yeah, we
it
watched
was-
that play out too
Yeah.
on social media, which
Yeah.
we're grateful for you, like, sharing your part of your
That's
life
how-
with us.
and I tried to only put the good things on there. And the night that I was overtired, and I sat for like an hour and a half, and I typed out things that probably the public should not have known. And by the time I went to hit the send button, it all disappeared. So God didn't want me putting out my frustrations. So I was like, okay, take a deep breath. And I sat, and then I went and did the high notes.
Okay,
And
all right.
that went out there.
But you
it's
know
like-
what? You still got it out. You know what? Even though you weren't
I
supposed to share, you still got it out. Now we have Shelby on here. Do you know Shelby Rump?
Shelby's my daughter. Hi, Tootie. How are you?
So Shelby is so proud of her mom. Okay, so thank you for that. And
I love you, Shelby.
what drives you, Don? I mean, you are a woman.
Mm-hmm.
You're a wife, a mom, a grandma, a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
owner of a art studio. And so could you tell me, and maybe share with the audience, because there may be women out there who they want to step into what they desire to do and have that kind of drive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe like yourself or me or other women out there. And there may be a woman just sitting there saying, you know, I really want to do that, but I'm scared, I'm afraid. What drives you? What keeps you
For
moving
that,
forward?
I would love to teach people to take and get rid of their inner inhibitions and be able to step out there. Because
What drives you? What makes you,
drives
Dawn, step out there?
So
Even your first step
After-
of the art studio.
after 9/11, I went homeless.
Oh,
I had
wow.
nothing.
Did
So
you
it's
guys hear
like-
that? She was homeless after 9/11. Okay, go ahead.
So I did. It's like I thought that I owned my own daycare, and then I was doing eBay.
Okay.
And I would love fixing things up and selling things. And then 9/11 happened, and people stopped spending money. And I had closed my daycare thinking, I'm just going to do eBay.
Right.
And this is great. Everything's coming and I'm making money. 9/11 happened, and I found out really fast that people that are homeless, it's not everyone's on drugs. Not everyone has a gambling addiction. Not everyone's an alcoholic.
Mhm.
It's from finances. And when you lose your address because you don't have money to pay your bill, you become no one. You become invisible.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
at that point, you have to figure out if you think of yourself as a rubber ball, and it's like you're going to figure out what's going to make you bounce and get back into the game. And
I love that.
because I would see things, it's like, I'm homeless, I'm in the vehicle, but then I'm seeing something that somebody's thrown out, and I can still take that in, and I can still fix it up, and I can still sell it.
Yes.
So it's like I was in a motel, and I set my computer up, and I would still fix things, and I would take a picture of it and put it on the internet, and God would send an angel that would come by that.
Wow. Well, and so your story of being homeless, like I've been like a single mom with 3 children and needing food and stuff. I've never been homeless, but you being homeless, that people would never ever think that, and that's a part of your story.
You can't judge people because
No, you can't,
you
because
can't.
you just never know the real reason as to why they are out there, and people make assumptions that, oh, well, Don is homeless because blah blah blah, but you never should really judge anybody at all
No.
based on their situation. But when you told me that, when I interviewed you, I interviewed Don a couple of years ago when I first met her. I still can't believe that you were ever in that place, but that drove you to where you are now. I mean, think about it. You had that desire to take these things and make something out of it, and now look what has happened. That was your inspiration.
It was.
You know, even in a bad situation, listen to this, everybody, because what do they say? You take lemons and make lemonade. And so this girl was in a very sour place at one point in her life, and she used that to begin to bring herself out of it by being creative, and well, that art thing in you, it's got to be like that's in you. That's something that has been in you probably since you were a
It
young
has
girl. And so now you've used it to bring you out of a bad situation and then create a huge art studio that's going to be opening on
March 20th.
March 23rd. I'm trying to find my
10 a.m. to
tickler.
4.
From 10 to 4.
Mhm.
And so Dawn, you have this book here. What
I
did you want to
do.
say about this book?
So
It's called The Stone. So
This-
I remember this when I was in school.
yes. So with this, I'm a recycle artist predominantly. I work with recycling things that people have thrown out, and I will give it a secondary life and make it visual and usable, creative, and somebody will want it. With the art studio, because there was no way in Sam Hill I could come up with the money to buy everything that's in here.
Right.
The community has helped me, just as in Stone Soup, nobody wanted to get together. But when they did, and they brought that one thing out and they added it into the soup, this is Stone Soup in here.
Yes.
Because
I love
it's
it.
like we have furniture, we have supplies, we have refrigerator. I mean, things that people just didn't want.
They gave them to
They
you, and
gave
they've
it.
been a blessing to you and a help to you.
It has. It's like the furniture. It's like, okay, we needed a table and chairs. Now we've got people that have brought us tables and chairs.
You
And
got
it's funny
tables
because
and chairs.
one person's bringing us a table, other person's bringing us chairs, other person's bringing us upholstery fabric to upholster those chairs. Those chairs are in the basement. But it's like, even I will tell you a story, and it absolutely just dumbfounded me. There's a woman that passed away, and God bless her soul. She was local in the area within 20 miles.
Mm-hmm.
People kept blowing up my phone. I had over 30 friends saying, you have to get to this estate sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying, I can't. I'm at my own art studio and I'm a nurse. I'm working overnights. I don't have the time to go. So one of my friends said, they have I wanted 2 little 6-inch tall doll molds. That's all I wanted. And so I ended up contacting, and I left my name and phone number. The estate sale was finished.
Right.
And then I heard nothing. It was crickets. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from a gentleman. It was an older gentleman. And he said, your name's Don Butler. And I said, yes, it is. You own the Breadbox Art Studio? And I said, yes, I do. And he gave me the address, and I knew that that was the address for the estate sale.
Yes.
He said, be there Tuesday at 9:15 in the morning. And that's it. I heard nothing else. And I'm like, okay. So I go there because I really wanted those molds.
Yeah.
Because we do fairies and all different tiny things also. So I go there, and I knew I had $30 in my pocket. That's all I had to my name.
Okay.
So I go there, and an older gentleman with a cane, he gets out of the vehicle, and there's a younger man, and they introduce themselves, but I didn't really know to the extent who they were. They take me into a carriage house that had thousands of molds.
Wow.
And I'm looking at everything, and
You're
I'm
mesmerized,
yes,
wow.
And I'm being quiet. And then they take me into the house. They take me into the main floor, down into the basement where her workspace was. And it is chucked right to the ceiling with supplies and things. They had a 4-day estate sale.
Oh my God.
And it was still just packed to the rafters.
A lot of stuff.
So they took me through her workstation in the basement. They took me through the ground floor, packed. Took me through the second floor, packed. The attic had things in it. We get back down to the main floor, and I'm standing there looking at the man, and he goes, I know who you are. And I'm looking at him like, okay, it's like, I really don't know who you are.
This is a great story.
Yes. And so it's like, I was also a volunteer minister through Holy Trinity, Hope House.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done artwork for them. He knew that I'd worked with Mary Carriola. He knew that I had worked with Heritage Christian Services. He went a good 10 years back.
Oh my goodness.
He's telling me all of this stuff. And I'm like the deer in the headlights, because I know my head is like tipping, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, I got $30 in my pocket. But I was excited going through because I could tell the different things that the woman had been working on. I was picking things up and explaining.
Right.
That was prior to this conversation. And he looked at me and he goes, I know who you are. And he just kept saying that. And he goes, we know what you do with the public, because I work with the veterans also.
Right.
And he looked at me, he goes, now, and I'm looking at him. He goes, all of this is yours. Take as much or as little as you want. And he said, you have 2 weeks.
Wow.
My head started spinning. I really thought I was going to pass out, because the supplies I couldn't afford the supplies. and the equipment. And it's like, I actually gave one of the pieces of equipment to Craig. It's a $500 pump for doing ceramics.
Wow.
That was on my wish list and I couldn't afford it. And because Craig volunteers, I can't afford to pay him. So I just said, I'm like, this is going to you. And I would pass things on to my friends.
Wow. What a story. So
But I
you
was
got,
blessed.
yeah, you
I
got
took
tremendously.
three 20-foot U-Hauls out of
yeah.
there, and there was still stuff left, and I couldn't anymore because
Wow.
you take 3 20-foot U-Hauls, what are you doing with it?
And this was
So,
when you were at your little
my other location.
other location, and you get that much stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And so that is again a part of your story. And that's what
Mhm.
Dawn is doing here today. She's, as a woman, and we're celebrating Women's History Month, she is just sharing her story and even how she got to where she is now with the art studio. And everybody, as I look around this studio, because I went into the little one.
Mhm.
This is amazing. The little one probably stopped like, it wasn't even this wide, but it
No.
probably stopped like
Mhm.
somewhere along here. And then she has a whole bunch of other room in her new studio. And again, her grand opening is going to be March 23rd from 10 to 4.
Mhm.
And so, Dawn, because we're almost done, Dawn. But, you know, what would you say to another woman that she has ambition in her heart and she desires? This is what, you know, I'm doing this show to inspire other women that
No,
maybe the quiet ones right now.
Mhm.
And I mean, you and I mean, I started my company almost 8 years ago, and I come from a very humble beginning. But 8 years ago, stepped out, got my broker's license. You know, I had a drive and a desire to just do more than what I was
Mhm.
doing. And so, again, not every woman, not every person is going to have that. But for those that are sitting there watching you and me and other women and saying, oh man, I wish that I could do that. I want to do this or that, and maybe not even what we're doing. What would you say to them?
I would say
Look
to
in the camera
them,
and tell
I know.
them.
I would say to them, even God feeds the birds, but he doesn't throw that food in their nest. If you
Ooh.
want something, get out there and figure it out. And baby steps will get you there. And you might be taking 2 or 3 steps backwards, but you've still made a step forward and you keep going forward. And it's like, if you want something bad enough, you have to just keep looking and you have to advocate for yourself because you are the one that you care about your dreams. Nobody else cares about your dreams. You care about your dreams. If there's something that you want to do, you have to advocate for yourself. If you have to have notebooks, and believe me, I've got hundreds of notebooks and I write little notes to myself and they're all over the place. It's like I lose them. I have sometimes the attention span of a squirrel, but it's like once in a while I'll come back across that note that I wrote to myself and that propels me again to go forward. But it's like, make sure if you want to do something, you get out there, and when you want to put the energy into it, it will come back to you.
Wow.
So,
well, you know, that right there. What you just said was the whole show. You said to that lady, whoever she is, if you want something, go after it.
Mhm.
And you can have this in your heart, but if you don't step out, take that step, because you said God feeds the birds, but you know what? You got to build up that nest,
Mhm.
right? And so, did I say that right? I can't. What did you say?
God feeds the birds,
Tell
but
me.
he does not put the food in their nest. They still have to get out and they have to
Okay.
find.
Okay. I
what
just want to
they
make sure I
need.
said. But yeah, so that is encouraging, because you said you even go back, and I do that. I go back and read what I've written down, those goals, those dreams, those desires. Go back and read them, because I know there's women out there that are like, they're here sitting doing this and that, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But they have something in them to say, saying that I want to do the other thing that's been in their heart, and there's something that just there's something they're just been held back by, you know, that voice in their head that says you can't do it, it won't work, it's not going to happen. You get that voice, don't you? I get that voice
I do,
all
but
the
it's
time.
like I don't want to be that elderly woman sitting there thinking, what if? Because if you don't
Did
take
y'all
that
hear that?
chance right now, you're not going to do anything. And then you are going to be that elderly person sitting there saying, I wish I would have. And it's going to be a regret. I'm a nurse and I listen to people's regrets and things they would have done differently. And it's like you have to do what's in your heart, because nobody else is going to advocate for you. So
that is it. That wraps it up. I mean, do what's in your heart, because if you don't, Nobody's going to say, you know, pull it out of your heart and say, I'm going to go do it for you. You got to do it. You got to step out and do it. And Dawn is a great example of, and she's been in this journey for this story for a hot minute, getting to where she is today in this art studio. And the grand opening, again, it is the grand opening on March 23rd from 10 to 4. And it is at the
Breadbox Art Studio, and we're at 4081 Ridge Road in Williamson, New York. We're between the Candy Kitchen and the Copper Ale House. And for you to come in here, if you want to learn how to recycle things, if you want to learn how to do, we have ceramics, we have pottery, we have sewing, we have beading, we have woodworking. We have everything that you could possibly want to do. I have a glass kiln, and that's a new addition.
Wow.
So we've got things. I can teach people to recycle. You could bring in something that's sentimental to you and we'll make it into sentimental art. I can teach you how to use things that are at your fingertips. If you're in a bad relationship and you need to come up with secret money, I will teach you how to make things that are at your fingertips that no one would ever even think about, and teach you how to market those things. If you're a teenager wanting to get your very first car, I will teach them how to make things. We are in the most wasteful society.
I believe
you. As an artist, I love it here, but you stand back and you're like, I can't believe that family just threw that out, because you can take that, do a little bit of a fix-up job,
and you got some money in your hands. Yes. What is your address again? Because I should have had that on your name, but I didn't. It is
4081 Ridge Road for Williamson, New York.
Ridge Road. Again, I'm my own producer, y'all. So I have to do it on a cuff. And so here I am typing in the address so that you guys can have that when you go back and look at the afterplay. That's Williamson, NY. I'm not going to put the zip code there. Okay. And I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to display it. There it is. 4081 Ridge Road, Williamson, New York. That is where the Breadbox Art Studio is located. That's where you're going to find Dawn and community members and those that love and help her. And so come to the grand opening. It is on March the 23rd from 10 to 4 here at 4081 Ridge Road, Williamson, New York. And that is the Breadbox Art Studio. Dawn, I want to thank you for
so much for coming out.
Willing to do this with me today. I just love you. And so I just hope and pray that other women will be inspired by what you're doing here and write her story, begin to write her story. So thank you for watching, and I will plan to be back next Friday. And until next time, I want you to live well, take care of yourself, and God bless. And I'm going to do my outie here.
There you go.
Here we go. Thanks for watching.